Hello everyone, welcome to Mimamsa. I am Dr. Vishwjeet Kawar. In last lecture we have discussed about the Vedic literature. In today's lecture we will discuss about this Astika school or 6 systems of Vedic philosophy. So before discussing this Astika schools or 6 systems of Vedic philosophy, we will just revise what we have seen in the last lecture. So in the Vedic literature, we have seen these 4 Vedas. Which are these 4 Vedas? First is Rig Veda, then Yajurved, third is Samved, and fourth one was Atharva Ved. And for all these individual texts, we have 4 different types of text. Which are these? First is Samhita, then Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and then Upanishads. So we have discussed all these Vedic literature. We have seen this Rigvedic Samhita. For Samhita, basically for Rigved Samhita we directly called it as a Rigved. For Yajurved Samhita we directly called as Yajurved. Similarly for this Samved and Atharved. So for this Samhita they directly use this term Rigved, Yajurved, Samved or Atharved. We have seen in the Rigved Samhita these are different hymns in praise of various gods or deities. What is this Brahmanas? Manuals for a priest. It contains these different rules for this priest to be observed during these rituals. Aranyakas, these are the forest books, rights given for these forest dwellers or Vanaprastha. Then these are Upanishads. Upanishads were philosophical texts dealing with this individual soul or universal soul, karma and rebirth. So we have already discussed this Vedic literature. In today's lecture, we will see these 6 schools of Vedic philosophy. So basically, these philosophies were emerged during this post-Vedic period, not during this Vedic period. So whatever 6 philosophies, these are emerged or developed during this first millennium BC. First millennium BC means after this Vedic period. Vedic period is from 1500 to 500 or 600 BC. So these are developed around this first millennium BC means post Vedic period, and these are developed out of these Vedas. So basically all these schools, these 6 schools were basically developed from these Vedas, and they believed in the Vedas. They believed in Vedas. That's why we call this philosophy as Astika. If the philosophies don't believe on the Veda, we call them as a Nastika. So all these 6 schools of philosophies, they are dependent on Vedas and they believed in this Vedas. That's why we call them as a Astika philosophy. They are basically emerged around this first millennium BC. All these 6 schools were believed in this moksha or liberation. So according to these 6 schools of philosophy, the ultimate aim, the final goal of human is liberation. Liberation from cycle of birth and death. So these philosophies are talking about this, how to get this moksha or liberation or salvation. If you see, these Astika schools means basically they believed in this authority of Vedas, but this developed after this Vedic period means during this post Vedic period around this first millennium BC. We have these 6 schools of Vedic philosophy. These 6 schools we called as a Shad-Darshan. They basically believed in authority of Vedas. What are these 6 schools? First is Samkhya, then Vaisheshika, then Nyaya, Yoga, Purva Mimamsa and Uttar Mimamsa or Vedanta. Remember, for your exam, what is important? Their founders and core meaning means how to get this moksha. How to get this moksha. We have these 6 philosophy. Which are these 6 philosophies? First one is Samkhya, then Vaisheshika, then Nyaya, then Yoga, then Purva Mimamsa, and last is Vedanta or Uttar Mimamsa. Basically this Samkhya philosophy, it is given by sage Kapil. Given by sage Kapil. So according to this philosophy, getting this true knowledge is extremely important, and if you get the true knowledge, then you will get this moksha. So true knowledge is important to get this moksha or salvation or liberation from cycle of birth and death. According to this Vaisheshika, this philosophy is given by sage Kanad, and entire all these materials are made up of atoms, and if you want to get this moksha, you want to realize this atomic nature. If you know this atomic nature, then you will get this moksha according to this Vaisheshika. Next is Nyaya. Nyaya philosophy is given by Gautam, sage Gautam. So this Nyaya philosophy, Nyaya means logic, so it depends on this critical thinking. If you get the true knowledge based on critical thinking, knowledge based on critical thinking, then you will get this moksha or salvation. According to this yoga philosophy, it is given by sage Patanjali. It is given by sage Patanjali. According to this philosophy, you will get this salvation through meditation and physical exercise. Meditation and physical exercise. So why this meditation or exercise is important? To achieve concentration. If you see this Purva Mimamsa, it is given by sage Jaimini, and according to this philosophy, if you want to achieve or if you want to get this salvation or liberation, there is only one way, that is rituals. Rituals given in the Vedas. And last is Vedanta or Uttar Mimamsa. Vedanta means basically it depends on this Upanishad. It is given by Badrayana, sage Badrayana, and according to this, if you want to get this salvation or liberation, you understand or acquire the knowledge of self means Atman or individual soul, and universal soul means Brahaman. If you understand both of these things, individual soul and universal soul, then you will get this moksha. Now we will see all these philosophies one by one. All these 16 regarded moksha or salvation or liberation from cycle of birth and death, highest goal of human struggle. So if you want to get this salvation, they have given different ways to get this salvation. If you consider this first philosophy, that is Samkhya philosophy, it is the oldest of 6 systems and it was founded by this sage Kapil. So according to this sage Kapil or Samkhya philosophy, this creation or evolution of universe does not take place due to divinity. It was basically inherent nature of Prakriti. Means no one has created this universe, it is created inherently. So acquiring this real knowledge is extremely important. If you get this real knowledge, you will get this salvation according to this Samkhya philosophy. If you consider this second philosophy, that is yoga philosophy. So this yoga philosophy is given by sage Patanjali. We all know Patanjali brand, now known for this yoga, right? So this sage Patanjali has given this yoga philosophy. If you consider this Patanjali, basically the Patanjali was author from 2nd century BC. 2nd century BC. But some scholar consider, and there are debates, so we consider this Patanjali from 2nd BCE to 5th century CE. Basically you can consider this as a 2nd century BC or 2nd century BC to 5th century CE. This sage Patanjali has given this philosophy yoga. Sage Patanjali, remember two most important work of this sage Patanjali. One is Yoga Sutra. One is Yoga Sutra and second is Mahabhashya. Mahabhashya. So this Yoga Sutra is talking about this basic yoga philosophy, and this Mahabhashya, this talks about this, basically this work is work of grammar, and it is commentary on this Panini's Ashtadhyayi. Remember these two basic things, first is Yoga Sutra and second is Mahabhashya. So according to this philosophy, you will get salvation through meditation and physical exercise. So these two things, meditation and physical exercise, are extremely important if you want to achieve this salvation. Why these things are important? Because through this meditation and physical exercise, you will get this concentration, you will achieve the desired concentration. So according to this philosophy, practice of control over pleasure, senses and bodily organ is extremely important. So you can achieve all these things through this meditation and physical exercise. If you see this sage Patanjali, he was an author and philosopher. You can consider directly from this 2nd century BCE or 2nd century BCE to 5th century CE. Most important works were Yoga Sutra and second is Mahabhashya. So Mahabhashya is basically work on grammar. It is commentary on this Panini's Ashtadhyayi. Panini's Ashtadhyayi is also work of grammar. So third is Nyaya. This Nyaya philosophy is given by sage Gautam. And it was basically depends on this critical thinking. Means you can get this salvation by acquiring knowledge which is based on this critical thinking or logical argument. So you can definitely get this salvation or liberation from cycle of birth and death by acquiring knowledge based on critical thinking or logical argument. If you see this Vaisheshika, this philosophy, this school was founded by sage Kanad, and according to this sage Kanad, all materials or objects are made up of atoms. So if you understood this nature of atom, means understanding this atomic nature is extremely important. If you understand this atomic nature, then you will get this salvation. This is about this Vaisheshika philosophy. Next is Mimamsa or Purva Mimamsa. It is given by sage Jaimini. So according to this, basically this philosophy, that is Mimamsa philosophy, it says Vedas are eternal truth. Vedas are eternal truth, means whatever given in the Veda is correct or these are truth. So we know Rigved, Yajurved, Samved, all these Veds were basically talking about rituals or sacrifices. Only these Upanishads or Vedantas, they have criticized these rituals or sacrifices. So all Vedas are talking about this rituals and sacrifices. So according to this philosophy, Veda contains eternal truth, means whatever given in the Veda is correct. So according to this philosophy, if you want to get this salvation or liberation, you have to do these rituals or sacrifices given in Vedas. So salvation can be, you can definitely get this salvation by performance of Vedic sacrifices. So Mimamsa basically means reasoning and interpretation. But in this school, they have used this reasoning and interpretation to justify the various rituals. So according to this philosophy, that is Purva Mimamsa, given by sage Jaimini, you can definitely get this salvation, but by performing these rituals or sacrifice. Then last philosophy is Vedanta. Vedanta, we have already seen Vedanta. We also call Upanishad also Vedanta because they were composed in the end of Vedic period, as well as they are talking about this end goal of Vedas, that is getting moksha. And how to get this moksha? By understanding or acquiring this knowledge about Atman and Brahaman. So this Vedanta philosophy is given by Ved Vyas or Badrayana. And basic text for this Vedanta are Upanishad and Brahma Sutra. So this Brahma Sutra was written by sage Badrayana. According to this, means Vedanta school, universal soul or Brahman is reality and everything other than Brahman is unreal. or Maya. So the Atman or self coincide with Brahman, means both individual soul and universal soul are same. So except this universal soul, everything is unreal. So if you person acquire the knowledge of self or individual soul or Atman, that means he acquires the knowledge of Brahman. So he will get this salvation. So this is basically about this Vedanta. Based on this Vedanta, there are 3 sub-schools of this Vedanta. Which are these sub-schools? So Vedanta or Upanishad, they are basically talking about 2 things. First is individual soul or Atman, then universal soul or Brahman. So according to Adi Shankaracharya, this individual soul or Atman and universal soul or Brahman both are one. Both are one, means they are not separate. So this is about Advaita philosophy. Advaita. Dvaita means two distinct things, or dualism. A means absence of dualism. Absence of dualism means non-dualism. According to this Advaita philosophy given by Adi Shankaracharya. Adi Shankaracharya. Both individual soul and universal soul are same. Next is, this is about Advaita. Then Vishishtadvaita. It is given by Ramanujacharya. Sri Ramanujacharya. According to this philosophy given by this Ramanujacharya, this Atman is separated from Brahman but still dependent on Brahman. Means individual soul is separate from Brahman or universal soul, but they are dependent. Means separate but dependent. And if you consider this third philosophy, this is Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, and then Dvaita. Dvaita means two. Two means this is about dualism, given by Madhvacharya. According to this philosophy, both individual soul or Atman and universal soul or Brahman are 2 distinct things, means they are separate and independent. These are 2 different things. We will see this one by one. So first is Advaita. Advaita. Dvaita means dualism. Advaita means non-dualism. This school is founded by Adi Shankaracharya. According to this school, ultimate reality or universal soul or Brahman and individual soul means Atman, both are identical, both are same, and you can get the salvation by acquiring the knowledge or Gyan. So knowledge or Gyan are the chief means of salvation. Second is about this Vishishtadvaita. This school was founded by Ramanujacharya. And according to this school, Atman is separate from Brahman but dependent on Brahman. Means Atman is separate from yet dependent on Brahman. And according to this school, devotion or loving faith is chief mean of salvation. So you can get this salvation by devotion or loving faith. And last is Dvaita. Dvaita means 2. This school was founded by Sri Madhvacharya, and according to this school, both Brahman and Atman means universal soul and individual soul are independent and distinct. Independent and distinct, and you can get the salvation by renunciation, devotion, and direct cognition of Lord through meditation. So according to this philosophy, Advaita, you can get the salvation through knowledge or Gyan. Then Vishishtadvaita, you can get this salvation through devotion or loving faith. In Dvaita, you can get the salvation through renunciation, devotion, and direct cognition of Lord through meditation. So this is about this different Vedic philosophies. Basically there are 6 Vedic philosophies who believed in this authority of Vedas. That's why we call them as a Astika philosophy. Astika philosophy. You don't have to remember everything about this philosophy. You just have to remember their founder and core meaning. Core meaning means how to get this salvation. If you consider this Nyaya philosophy, you can get the salvation by acquiring knowledge based on critical thinking or logical argument. If you consider this yoga philosophy, you can get the salvation by yoga, means physical exercise and meditation. So if you consider this Vedanta, you can get this salvation by acquiring true knowledge of individual soul and universal soul, means Atman and Brahaman. So in last lecture we have discussed about this Vedic literature. There are basically 4 Vedas, which are these: Rigved, Yajurved, Samved and Atharvaved. Each text has 4 different types of text, which are these: Samhita, Brahmanas, Aranyakas and Upanishad. In this lecture we have discussed about these 6 schools, or we call them as a Shad-Darshan, means basically they believed in this authority of Veda. If they are not believing in this Veda, we call them as a heterodox school or Nastik. Like Buddhism, Jainism, Charvak, Ajivikas, we will see in different lecture. So this is all about this Vedic schools or 6 schools of Vedic philosophy. In next lecture we will start this period of Mahajanpadas or India in 6th century BC. Until then, goodbye.